So let's actually get in a voice because Brent futures have spiked and everybody knows the reason. So Jonathan Barratt joins us right now for more on the impact it can positively have on crude prices. Jonathan, good morning. Thanks for taking the time out and speaking to us at BloombergQuint. How tough is the situation right now from a crude perspective? How much more volatility do you anticipate here?
Good morning. Look, I think at the moment it's very hard to tell. The situation is quite fluid, but as we've seen prices onwards of up to 4% today, I think one of the key things that we have to look at is because we're still in a festive mood, that the liquidity in the market isn't what it would normally be. And as a result of that, we're seeing exaggerated prices. So let's see what the dust settles, but certainly a very large spike, but I think a lot of it is based on geopolitics, but also in a liquid market.
Jonathan, hi, good morning to you from India. If the tensions in the Middle East escalate now, what sort of range do you see for crude prices? What's the upper limit according to you?
Yeah, look, I think it's actually quite interesting because when you look at the US involvement, this is the first time really that they're really pushing a very hard agenda. And as a result of that, that could represent sort of real troops on the ground, which is an issue. If that's the case, then initial targets for Brent could see it upwards of $75 a barrel. And when you look at it from a technical perspective, that also could be achieved quite readily.
$75 in the near term is what you're expecting?
If things start to escalate there in the Middle East, if the US start to push things, then that's highly possible, given the supply problems that we already have in the market.
Jonathan, just one question. The Bloomberg news articles, and 3 of them that I've read this morning, seem to believe that a response of some sort from Iran seems to be inevitable. Now, what the US does is other thing, but because we are close to the weekend and this uncertainty about an Iranian response might stay, you reckon that even if crude doesn't spike from here, these levels might be the levels at which crude might sustain for the time being?
Oh, look, I think at the end of the day, the market's already found its range quite nicely. And I think when you look at Brent crude, you look at the lower end of, sort of like that 63, and the upper end, we're right on the upper end at the moment. I think if you get a response from Iran, which involves Iraq, and then you get that tension starting to escalate, then yes, prices will start to move higher. I think we are at the lows. We have seen the lows for quite some time. And I think given the general macros, the prices should remain relatively firm, for the price of Brent for the foreseeable future.
Jonathan, you also said technically also 75 is a key level to be monitored. I was just looking at last 1 year performance of Brent, and 75 is actually the high that we've seen. Worst case, if that gets breached, what's the next level that you would be watching out on the upside?
Look, then you really have to look at the old highs there, but really you've got to see the reasons for it to get to that level. Now that old high was up around about that 85, so it is a fair distance away. And I think given the current macros and given the supply at those levels, that I think it'll be very hard to reach. But then we don't really see how this Middle Eastern concern will escalate. But when you do look at it, I think that 75 through maybe 77 would be the top end for the move.